We are taught here in the West that we're made in the image of the Creator. Or to put another way, of course, there's the beautiful, beautiful Hermetic principle, as above, so below. So if we take that seriously, then it stands to reason that we too are here to create. We too are here to be generative. We too are here to produce. So seen in that light, questions about relationships, family, romance, love, money, career, building things up, making job changes, recovering from illness, passing through health challenges. These things take on greater and deeper and more sacred dimensions when we think of them in light of the principle as above, so below, which I think is as powerful a principle, this emanating from the Hermetic tradition, from the Greek-Egyptian thought school that grew in Alexandria in the decades immediately following Christ. I think that's as beautiful a dictum as the Golden Rule or as anything found in the Beatitudes or the Ten Commandments. It's almost an all-encompassing cosmic philosophy of life. And if you see people's so-called day-to-day concerns in light of that, those day-to-day concerns take on a weight and a seriousness that's really sacred. Because I really do believe that all of our pursuits are sacred. If we're made in the image of the highest, then all of our pursuits are sacred. We're trying to create things in our world. We're trying to somehow produce and see through our ideals in the world. We're trying to find some necessary assistance. If we're suffering from a health problem or some chronic condition, we're trying to find some way forward. If not recovery, then management of whatever we're dealing with. We're constantly in the act of creating. So seen in that light, I feel that the quotidian concerns of day-to-day life are profound. And I think we in the culture of spiritual search, we have to be very, very careful, I believe. And every religious movement, every spiritual culture, subculture faces this question, this issue. We have to be very careful, I think, not to stigmatize the everyday needs and aspirations of the individual. I get concerned that we not get into a headspace where we start to draw distinctions between the higher and the lower, the inner and the outer, the essential and the material. I'm not sure that these distinctions are really there, other than in our own imagination. I think the greatest dictum on this came from the philosophy of Christ, who said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and God's what is God's." We live within the material, within the transcendent. We owe to each, and I'm not sure that there is even an each. I think it's all one thing. I think the individual striving for understanding, the individual striving for recovery, the individual striving to find his or her way ethically in the world, wanting to generate things, produce things. I think it's part of one journey. I think it's one essential human whole. And that we might be lapsing into a language of division too quickly. Some people say, and they have a point, that their beef with New Thought is that it's too materialistic. There's too great an emphasis on, I want to get mine. And I understand that criticism, and that criticism is not without reason. There's a part of me, I have to say to you all here, seeker to seeker, just seeker to seeker, there's a part of me that felt so much more relaxed in my own search when I stopped thinking in terms of the division of higher versus lower, of material versus spiritual. I feel that when I'm making a material effort, for example, that's not divorced from my spiritual life and values and ideals. I think that when I'm striving to achieve something in the world, which I often am, I do so also striving to abide by an ethic of nonviolence. I don't specifically mean physical nonviolence. I'm not talking in those terms, but I mean not doing anything that would violate another individual's ability to strive toward his or her own highest potential. And someone said to me recently, but isn't there always going to be some sort of conflict when Peter is trying to get something and Paul is trying to get something, when Jane is trying to get something and when John is trying to get something? Isn't there going to be some inevitable conflict? And I think the answer to that must be yes. But it seems to me that the cost of human creativity may be friction. It may be friction, that we're all sort of moving in these different cycles with different needs and concerns, and inevitably friction may arise. But I think that having an ethic of doing nothing to disrupt or violate another person's fundamental capacity to pursue his or her highest sense of the good or sense of personal aspiration has to prevail, even in the face of cross currents that individuals inevitably experience within the framework that we have to occupy.